Good morning, buenos dias, wasabal khair. Welcome back for another lesson from English al Español al Arabi, where we take words and phrases and translate them from English to Spanish and then to Arabic. And many times, like today, I simply compare established, well-known translations, one with the other. It's nearly Halloween 2020, but between the flaring pandemic and the upcoming U.S. presidential elections, Halloween just isn't very scary this year now, is it? I'm picking up a thread that I started last year where I was taking a look at the creation story from the book of Genesis from the Bible in the Old Testament, the Torah, the Pentateuch, the books of Moses. Genesis chapter 1, and today I'm doing verses 4 and 5. Genesis chapter 1, verses 4 and 5. As always, when I do these Bible verse videos, I use the most widely used version and translation in each respective language, which here are the King James 1887 in English, the Reina Valera 1960 in Spanish, and the Smith Van Dyck translation, which the Old Testament came out in 1885. And I don't know if it's been revised or not. So, with that in mind, today I think I'm just going to be reciting it, and then in future videos I'll go through the Arabic and break it down grammatically and phonetically. So, Genesis chapter 1 verse 4 in the King James Bible is rendered, "And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness." Verse 5. "And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day." So a couple notes here are that between the English and the English translators chose the verb divide the light from the darkness, while the Spanish translators chose the verb separate, to separate. Y separó Dios, and God separated the light from the darkness. And English is the only one of these three languages that uses the ordinal number to say the first day. And the evening and the morning were the first day. Actually, that's how I taught my daughter the ordinal numbers up until 7. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And the evening and the morning were the second day. And the evening and the morning were the third day. The Spanish says a day, un día, and the Arabic says one day, yawmin wahid, or yawmin wahidan, to pronounce it correctly with all the vowels. So, the Spanish and the Arabic share the quality, especially in formal context, that they prefer to start a sentence with a conjugated verb. So instead of saying God saw, we say saw God. Conjugated verb, subject, object. So in Spanish, this verse 4 is rendered, "Y vio Dios la luz que era buena, y separó Dios la luz de las tinieblas." I should stop here and say las tinieblas is darkness, but it's a darkness that doesn't exist in English, because not only is it darkness, but it's chaos and evil. And this does exist in Arabic, this concept, this implication of something. You know, we don't really have this in English. We can say outer darkness, but that really means nothingness. But there is no realm of chaos and evil as far as darkness goes in English. At least not a word for it, but we can all feel that it's there, can't we? Especially this year. So, verse 5 in Spanish, and I'll recite the whole thing in Spanish again, is, "Y llamó Dios a la luz día, y a las tinieblas llamó noche. Y fue la tarde y la mañana un día." Okay, so what we have here is there's also a grammatical curiosity in the Spanish, and that is that "y llamó Dios a la luz." We don't really need that "a" there, "and called God to the light." Now, when we add that "a" in Spanish, we're personifying the light and the darkness in this particular passage, and I don't know why the translators would have chosen to do it, but it is much more poetic. So we could take that little "a" out and say, "Y Dios llamó la luz día," and that makes perfect sense. But when we say Dios llamó a la luz día, it makes day like a person, almost. It personifies the day. And las tinieblas. Okay, so reciting the whole thing in Spanish again from the top would be, Y vio Dios la luz que era buena, y separó Dios la luz de las tinieblas. Y llamó Dios a la luz día, y a las tinieblas llamó noche. Y fue la tarde y la mañana un día. Now to the Arabic, which of course I'm not going to be nearly as smooth at, but for verse 4 we have wa ra'a Allahun nura annahu hasan. And because I'm an Arabic student, I'm going to pronounce the last vowel here in the phrase, even though that's typically not done. So I would say wa ra'a Allahun nura annahu hasanun. Hasanun, might know from hasanan, the expression that means all right, está bien, all right, okay. So this is, and saw God the light that annahu it, the who is it, was good. Well, it's actually, if you just take this annahu hasan here, that means it is good, but because it's in a past tense sentence, it becomes it was good. So وَفَصَلَ اللَّهُ بَيْنَ النُّورِ وَثُلْمَ. So we have to talk about this letter here because my pronunciation might not be accurate. So what I pronounce this word, this is the word for that darkness, that kind of crazy darkness. It's a thulma, a thu. Now this letter actually has two correct pronunciations in modern standard Arabic, and it can also be pronounced with a Z sound, as in zulma. But in this word, and it depends on the word, it also depends on the region. This word is generally pronounced othulma. But as I said, my pronunciation of this letter is not natural, it's not native, so please download a recording of a native speaker. Wathulma. And of course, if I were to pronounce the last vowel, it would be wathulmati. Verse 5, or ayatul khamsa. Wada'a Allahu anura naharan. And called God the light day. Thulmatu. And here thulmatu becomes a subject. Thulmatu da'aha لَيْلًا وَكَانَ مَسَاءٌ وَكَانَ صَبَاحٌ يَوْمٍ وَاحِدٍ. Well, thank you very much for viewing. Please join me as I break this down a little bit better in both English and Spanish. God bless you. Dios les bendiga. Alaikum.